Super Mario Bros. Wonder is an absolutely phenomenal entry into the 2D Mario series, and that in large part has to do with its fantastic level design. Pretty much every level in this game is incredibly creative, especially due to the game's special Wonder Flower gimmicks. I love being able to walk at 1 mile per hour as a Goomba, but even outside of the game's main levels, the bonus levels here are also fantastic. These are all mini levels that can be found on the world map. Most of the time these are used to give the players Wonder Seeds, which are of course a requirement to beat the game. There's actually a surprisingly high amount with a total of 52 bonus stages in the game, but with there being so many, some were bound to be worse than others, so today I thought it'd be fun to rank every bonus stage in Super Mario Bros. Wonder from the worst to the best. Now first off, what counts as a bonus stage? Well, luckily for me, the game itself actually made this distinction pretty clear. In the pause menu, you can get an overview of every level in a world, and the bonus levels will all have this yellow text over their name to indicate what type of bonus level they are. So anything that has this yellow text I'm considering for the ranking, and anything that doesn't won't be included here. There are 5 different types of bonus stages: break times, KO arenas, wiggler races, search parties, and badge challenges. Now if you watch my badge ranking video, you know that I was originally only planning on ranking the 20 badge challenges by themselves, but the other bonus levels in this game are pretty short, so I thought it'd be fun to throw them in here too. As for what I'm ranking these on, I'm basing it on how much fun I had in the level and how creative it is. Longer and more challenging levels will generally be higher, but that's not always the case. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. At 200k, I'm ranking every 2D Mario level, and let's jump right into the list. If you watch my nitpicks video on Wonder, these last 2 placements will be absolutely no surprise to you. 52, Search Party and Empty Park. The Search Party levels were my least favorite aspects of the entire game. Yeah, I'd say even more than the bosses, because at least those fights were still fun. Half of these things just completely suck. Your main goal is to find 5 Wonder tokens in a given space. While that might sound like a fine idea for a level, heck, several moons in Mario Odyssey required you to get 5 moon shards, and I like those a ton, the problem here comes down to how you have to find them. The entire gimmick of this search party is that you have to find invisible blocks. So that means you're just blindly jumping around in this area until you eventually hit the random space they decided to put a block in. This is just not fun in the slightest. It's very reminiscent of bad Mario Maker levels. This is so incredibly time consuming and just sort of frustrating. There's no challenge here, it's just jump until you eventually find the block that you need to finish. Now yes, the idea is that this is supposed to work with the game's online mode to have you follow other people's ghosts to the tokens, but then at that point you're just following people to the end, which is also not fun. I think it's fairly safe to say that this deserves to be the worst bonus stage in Wonder. Heck, it's just one of the worst Mario levels ever made. Wait, forget what I said, that's spoiling the 200k special. Also, you guys should totally subscribe, by the way, don't you all want to see that? 51, Search Party Puzzling Park. This has a lot of the same problems the last one did, but at the very least, this doesn't completely revolve around hidden blocks. It still mostly does, and that second token especially is very evil, but at least there are a few decent tokens here. 50, Break Time Hurry Hurry. This is the most difficult level in the entire Mario series. Everything about it is designed in such a way to make it so frustrating to complete. What you have to do is run across this disappearing platform before the timer expires. The timer, though, is so tight that you barely have any time to grab the Wonder Seed before the blocks below you disappear. This took me a million tries just due to how little time they give you here, so for the endless frustration this caused me, it's going here on the list. 49, Break Time Treasure Vault. For this, you just have to use the drill a few times, break a crate, and you're finished. Cool. 48, Break Time Raise the Stage. For this, you normally have to raise the stage by jumping in sync with the music, but if you have any sort of badge that boosts your jump, you could just hit the block right away. The reason this is higher than the last few is because I like ninjas, and the fact that it uses Super Mario Sunshine's bonus level theme was pretty cool. 47, Break Time Zip Go Round. For this, you have to collect 5 Wonder tokens. Oh, okay, we're already done. 46, Kick It Out My Way. Hold right, jump, and kill him. It's just that easy. 45, Break Time Watery Wonder tokens. This is both an underwater level and an auto-scroller. Normally I'd hate both of these things, but it does make the stage last long enough for me to actually talk about it. All you have to do is grab 5 Wonder tokens as you swim down a pit. There's no enemies or obstacles though, so it's very easy. 44, Break Time Lights Out. This one has a decent theme where the Wonder Seed will only spawn with the lights out. Since the darkness completely covers the platforms, you have to remember where they are to get up here. It's still pretty short, but this is a decent idea. 43, Break Time Pop-Up Hoppo. For this, you have to hit 2 spring platforms as a Hoppo rolls over them to unlock the Wonder Seed. It's short, but it does have a slight bit of challenge. 42, Break Time Cloud Cover. This time you have to collect 5 Wonder tokens by climbing a pole, but the tokens are all obscured by clouds. While that doesn't make this too much harder, it's decently fun to do quickly. 41, Break Time Rever Run.
What the dog doing?
This features one of the new dry bones dogs, and it's kind of a cool concept. You have to launch the dog and quickly run above it to hit an on-off switch on the other side. I think they could have expanded upon this idea more though, since you basically just jump onto this booster that drops you off at the switch. 40. Break time floating wonder tokens. This has 5 wonder tokens placed over you when you have to jump on the bouncy platforms to reach them. It's mostly pretty simple, but I just enjoy bouncing around. 39. Break time unreachable treasure. Okay, so this one may seem slightly hypocritical, but basically the only challenge here is finding invisible blocks that create a staircase over this pipe to the wonder seed. The reason I like this more than the search party levels from before comes down to the fact that there's actually a clever hint here. In the background, we can see some snails crawling along some blocks in front of a mountain thing. This same mountain thing is placed behind the pipe, and by jumping where those background blocks are relative to the mountain, it reveals the hidden blocks. So this is actually an okay puzzle. 38. Break time timer switch dash. This requires you to run on some more timed blocks, but this time the layout is not only more complicated, but the timer can actually be more troublesome in certain places. You can refresh the timer by hitting one of the timer blocks, but getting between them is a bit harder than just running straight ahead of you. I'd say this course was pretty fun to run through. 37. Break time timer switch climb. This is basically the same thing as the last one, but this time it's vertical. I think the jumps here are a bit more interesting, which is why I prefer it. 36. Break time hot rocks. This has the pretty interesting concept of using the elephant to pour water on all of the hot rocks. My favorite part about this is doing it as fast as you can, since you can do it pretty quick. Obviously it's still quite short, but the concept is well executed. 35. Break time tumble house. This has us collect 5 wonder tokens in this spinning room. It can actually be somewhat tricky to navigate as it's spinning, especially if you're trying to do it quickly. Trying to go through this fast is a lot of fun. 34. Break time bouncy tunes. This has us collect 5 wonder tokens to the tune of Il Delfino from Mario Sunshine. After collecting them all, they even do a little jingle when summoning the wonder seed. This is up here purely because of the concept. I think it's really cute. 33. Break time wonder token tunes. This is the exact same thing, but for the Mario World bonus theme. Personally, I like the song and jingle a bit more on this one. 32. Break time Trotting Piranha Plants. This is similar to the last two, but this time you have to defeat 5 Piranha Plants rather than collecting 5 wonder tokens. The song here is also the Hammer Bro theme from Mario 3, which I think is my favorite one. And just like that, we have already talked about all of the break time levels. Yeah, I wasn't kidding when I said most of these were short. 31. Search Party Pipe Partk. While this can still definitely be a little annoying, the solutions for getting the wonder tokens here were legitimately quite clever sometimes. I really like the one hidden off to the right side, as you have to push a mostly off-screen pipe, which is a pretty creative idea. Sadly, some of them are also quite dumb. For this wonder token, you just have to randomly run against the wall. And they also just couldn't resist making an invisible block puzzle. Still, I'd say this is overall much better than the first two, though it's still got enough dumb stuff to put it down here. 30. KO Arena Fungi Funk. We have reached our first KO Arena, and for the most part, I like these quite a bit. The goal for these is to choose a power-up and kill all of the enemies in a room to move on to the next. These contain either 3 or 4 rooms, and depending on how fast you kill the enemies, you'll get some purple 10 coins at the end. That also makes this our first level to have those in the video, which I think add a lot to the stages. Since this is all about speedrunning, KO Arenas are one of the few stages to actually keep track of your best time. I think that should be on every level in the game, but hey, I'll take it being on these at least. So anyway, what is it that makes this my least favorite KO Arena? Well, I just don't really have a super fun time doing this one fast. There are 4 rooms here, and while I do like the Taily room, the other 3 just feel super slow. The first room has you kill boos with the light, which is a cute idea, but you have to wait on the boos to move into position. That makes the run through here a lot less exciting. That's continued with the third room, where you have to take out 2 door enemies. This room is tedious since you have to waste time walking through a few doors. This can't be sped up at all, and again, just brings down the whole thing. The last room with the Wubba is okay, but moving through the slime still feels slow. Overall, this was still definitely a fun stage, just much slower feeling than the other KO arenas. 29. Badge Challenge Parachute Cap 1. Can you believe it? Almost halfway through the list, and we are finally at our first badge challenge. You know, the thing this video is going to be about? This is the very first badge challenge in the game, so it makes sense that it's pretty simple. It's focused on the parachute cap and does a great job showing it off with some pretty big jumps. The purple 10 coins are all fairly obvious, but still fun to collect, and I like the addition of having to spawn in platforms. Though if you're awesome enough, you could just climb up the cliff walls with the badge. 28. Badge Challenge Jet Run 1. This is the first expert badge challenge, though don't let that fool you, it's still pretty easy. This just introduces us to the jet run ability, having us run fast and jump off the air. You can very easily beat this by just holding right and jumping, and that's including the purple 10 coins. The only reason this is above the last one is because it's the easiest purple coin farm in the game once you run out of the coin stages, which I definitely needed for my last few standees. Also, no, I'm not counting those coin stages for the video. 27, Wiggler Race Mountaineering. Here we have our first Wiggler Race. This is the other type of level to give a best time, which makes sense considering it's a race. The first one though is pretty simple, and I'd also say pretty easy if you have the Jet Run badge. The layout works pretty well for a speedrun level. I love trying to avoid all the tall enemies while holding forward. It is a bit too simple for me to place it up higher, but I still enjoyed it. 26, Badge Challenge Crouching High Jump 1. Oh sorry, poof, badge challenge. Since this is centered around the crouching high jump badge, it's got a much slower pace than our last few levels since the ability takes time to charge. Despite that though, I think they work with the ability well, using it to jump over the very tall enemies and collecting purple 10 coins. The first 2 purple 10 coins are pretty good, requiring you to jump on an enemy and time a jump just as it passes over you, but the last one is super lame. It's just placed at the top of the flagpole, which is required anyway for 100%, basically making this a waste of a collectible. Still, the rest of this challenge was pretty good. 25, Badge Challenge Spring Feet 1. This is another expert badge with the spring feet constantly forcing you to jump. While that does make it pretty hard to use in levels, I think it makes for some great challenges since it completely mixes up your movement. But this first Spring Feet level still uses the badge quite well. For most of this you just have to jump between platforms, so there are a few moving ones which make it a bit tricky. 24, Badge Challenge Floating High Jump 2. This is the second badge challenge focused on the floating high jump, however I actually found this to be a bit weaker than the first. The beginning of this is incredibly simple, just requiring you to jump off of donut blocks which you don't even stay on for long enough to have them fall. After that a few piranha plants get thrown into the mix, making it a bit more interesting. The last section of this level takes place on a moving platform. While this does make for some very tight jumps over piranha plants, it also slows down the level's pace quite a bit. I do like that last purple 10 coin being placed at the end though, it just adds a little bit of intensity for the ending here. 23, KO Arena Magmafla. Taking a break from our badge challenges, we once again have ourselves another KO Arena. This one has an overall much faster pace than the first one we saw. The first 2 rooms are great, requiring you to take out these popcorn guys and noshers respectively. The bubble flower makes these 2 rooms a lot of fun to run through. The last 2 rooms though do bring this down quite a bit. The very last one has you ride a platform to take out some fire spikes. This one can be sped up a bit though, so I don't have too much of a problem with it. The third room is definitely the most annoying. I like the idea here where you have to use the firework enemies to take out the piranha plants, but the execution is a bit rough. The piranha plants are able to go in and out of the pipes, which means you can pretty often just have the piranha plants narrowly miss the firework and you end up having to wait a while. I'm sure speedrunners could make this faster, but for me, I just wasn't having that much fun sitting here and waiting for the fireworks to kill the plants. Overall, I do still like this KO Arena, I just think the third room could be improved. 22, Badge Challenge Jet Run 2. This mixes up the use of the jet run by having us not only run right, but sometimes left. Whoa! For real though, it's fun to try and quickly switch directions, and I like how they use these blocks as both a flat platform and later a ramp. I do have to say though, the last section is kind of annoying. It's a climb up a tower while lava is rising right below you. I think that is a great idea as it makes you have to turn around as quickly as you can. It's actually exiting the tower I have an issue with. See, if you enter into the first pipe, you miss out on the last purple 10 coin. The game doesn't let you go back through the pipe either, so if you accidentally go into it, which you can very easily do, you have to restart the entire stage.
Or I guess you could kill yourself.
I just think being able to go back through the pipe would have been nice. 21, Badge Challenge Dolphin Kick 2. Mario Wonder somehow did it and made underwater levels actually somewhat fun. In this challenge, we have to use the Dolphin Kick to avoid getting crushed by the moving blocks, and it's actually pretty challenging. You have to be pretty careful with how you plan out your route because moving even slightly too slowly can result in a death. The purple coins here are also placed really well. The first one is a dangerous one to grab, the second one is pretty well hidden, and the third requiring a mushroom makes the entire stage a bit harder. Pretty much this stage is fantastic. Right up until the end where they make the exact same mistake as our last level. If we go into the pipe that's in front of us, we are then locked out of the top of the flag. This time not being able to go back into the pipe makes even less sense since it's not like there's anything to reset in the room by going back. Most people probably don't even know that there is a second pipe they need to look for, so this just forces them to reset the whole stage if they want 100%. If you could go back into this pipe, I think I'd like this stage a lot more. 20, Wiggler Race Swimming. This one is pretty simple, but I like that there's a speedrun level focused around letting us use the Dolphin Kick badge. There's not really much specific I want to comment about this layout, but it's just fun to go through with the Dolphin Kick. There are a good amount of obstacles, and it's not too easy either. 19, Wiggler Race Spelunking. This definitely has the most complicated layout of the Wiggler races, and I also think that makes it the best. It can be quite challenging to avoid all the obstacles while using Jet Run, but that's what makes this stage so exciting. There are also a few parts where you have to turn around, making the routes a bit more interesting. Overall, this is definitely my favorite of the Wiggler races. 18, KO Arena Fluff Puff Kerfuff. This is our first KO Arena to only have 3 rounds instead of 4. I definitely think the 3 here though are pretty dang solid. The first room focuses on smog rings, several of which are placed pretty high up in the room. It can be a bit tricky, but managing to hit them all quickly is super satisfying. The next room is focused on con darts, and how you go about this one is pretty interesting. You first have to dash at the bottom of the room and then turn around to take out all the con darts on the way back. back. I personally like trying to jump on all of them as they're flying above the stage. The last room though is pretty weak, but it's not a pace breaker by any means. You just have to take out a few hammer bros on note blocks, which can be done pretty quickly, but just sort of feels uninspired, especially since another KO arena later has a very similar hammer bro room. Still, this is a very satisfying one to try and do quickly, so I think it earned its spot on the list. 17. Badge Challenge Boosting Spin Jump 2. If you watched my badge video, you know that this was my favorite badge in the game. I think it's not only super useful, but very fun to use as well. This has a large focus on jumping off bumpers, and while it is quite fun to try and time jumping off of them based on their spin, I'd say this challenge is pretty simple. I still definitely like it just because it uses the boosting spin and the purple 10 coins are all well placed, but I think the other, more complicated challenges probably deserve to be higher. 16. Badge Challenge Grappling Vine 2. This is another really fun badge, but in comparison, it's a lot less useful in the actual game. Since these challenge stages are obviously built around their badges though, the Grappling Vine gets to shine a bit here. I will say neither of the challenges use it nearly as well as the game's final level, but they're still quite fun. This uses the Grappling Vine in combination with some conveyor belts. I will say the challenge itself here is honestly quite easy since most of the time you just ride the conveyors, but the purple coins are all pretty great. The first one is placed in a little alcove, the second one requires timing the Grappling Vine to grab the very bottom of the wall, and the third one is basically the same thing but directly over the void. I do wish the actual challenge itself had a bit more to it, but I'm happy the purple 10 coins were all well placed. 15. Badge Challenge Grappling Vine 1. I think this one has a slightly better challenge, but less interesting purple coins. The jumps here are much more interesting, and there are several more ways you could go about completing this one. The first purple 10 coin is also pretty well placed, requiring a wraparound jump using the vine. Unfortunately, the purple 10 coins fall off hard, because the last two might be some of the lamest in any of these challenges. The second one is basically right in front of you since you have to jump between these walls of slime to move upward. But the third one is literally placed on your path. Like, it would be harder to not get it. I have no clue why they put it here. I think the challenge itself is probably the most important thing, so this gets to have an edge over the second one, but it is pretty close. 14. Badge Challenge Boosting Spin Jump 1. I think compared to the second one, this shows off the boosting spin a bit better. The goal for this one is to jump below some pipes and then use the spin jump to wrap back around onto a platform. This can be pretty tense to do since it's very easy to bonk your head here and die. Technically, you're supposed to stand on these pipes so that the other pipe can make room, but I like that you can actually do this challenge without doing that as it makes it go by quicker. The purple 10 coins are also all extremely well placed. I especially like the last one, which is very sneakily hidden in this gap between pipes at the end. I also like how you have to get to the top of the flagpole here, requiring you to boosting spin jump onto this platform. Overall, this is just a really fun badge challenge and works as a great showcase for the ability. 13. Search Party Item Partk. I know, it's crazy that a search party was able to make it to the top half of this list. This one has a very different take from the other three though, so I like it much more. To get the 5 wonder tokens, you need to solve 5 mini puzzles, each relating to one of the 3 new power-ups. The elephant fruit is used to reveal a vine and destroy a wall. The bubble flower is used to kill 3 cheap cheats for a token, and the drill is able to dig and find 2 more. I especially like the last one with the drill. It's made pretty clear that you can go through these blocks while drilling, but how that helps you isn't very clear. That is, until you try digging on the platforms above you, which then lets you get into the wall for the last token. That's a pretty good puzzle, and I overall like this one so much more than the other search parties. Even the invisible block here isn't too bad, since the game gives you a hint by having a similar question mark block structure right next to it. So you know what? Good job, Nintendo. You're not getting let off the hook for those first 2 though. 12. Badge Challenge Crouching High Jump 2. I think this level builds the charge time of the crouching high jump into itself much better than the first one. This is due to the use of donut blocks. Not only do these make you want to jump off of them quickly since they fall, but this level also has us jump off of them while they're falling. That's best shown off with the first 2 purple coins, where you have to grab both of them as the platform you're standing on falls. Though if you suck like me, you could do this little backup for the first one. Now, I was gonna say the last purple coin sucks, but while I was writing this, I sort of understood the idea behind it. It's basically directly in front of you, but it's covered in bricks, which forces you to get a mushroom. While that's really not too hard at all, that forces you to keep the mushroom for the rest of the level, making you have to do some sliding ducks under low ceilings. So this is still not the best purple 10 coin ever, but I guess I can respect that it's trying to make you get the mushroom so that you're taller. I also do like how this level ends quite a bit, where you have to slide under the ceiling, release your jump, and wall jump off of the wall for the top of the flag, all while the donut platform below you is about to fall. Overall, I think this was extremely well designed around its badge. 11. Badge Challenge Floating High Jump 1. For what might be the biggest gap between the first and second badge challenges, I think the first Floating High Jump challenge is significantly better. That comes down to just how tight a lot of these jumps around the piranha plants are. It's very easy to get hit here, and if you're trying to go for the purple 10 coins, be prepared for some tricky jumps. It's especially fun to try and do this level fast, since not waiting for the piranha plants to leave makes the jumps even tighter. here. Add on that this doesn't have a moving platform section like the second one did, and I personally find this one to be an improvement. 10. Badge Challenge Parachute Cap 2. This is a really nice evolution of the first challenge. While that one was all about trying to jump large gaps, this one is all about doing that while also avoiding enemies. There are now a ton of piranha plants infesting all areas of this course, making the jumps quite tight. Since the parachute cap also slows you down, trying to use it as little as possible is pretty fun, adding even more challenge to those that want to do it fast. The first 2 purple coins are also placed in pretty good spots, requiring a decent amount of precision to grab. The thing that's holding this back from being higher though would have to be the last segment, since you basically just glide down to the flagpole with no obstacles. A bit of a boring way to end it, but the first few areas with the piranha plants were pretty great. 9. KO Arena Pipe Rock Rumble. This is the very first KO arena, and I'd say it's a great start to the concept. There are 3 pretty simple rooms here. The first one has a ton of Goombas, some of which being in hard to reach places, so routing is definitely the main concern. The second room has a few piranha plants spawning from the ceiling. The room layout makes it pretty difficult to kill them, but that's also why I find it fun. The last room though is definitely my favorite. We have to take out 5 Bull Rush, but since they're so strong, just jumping on them won't work. What you have to do is lead their attention into the pits in the room, which is a pretty creative idea, and if you do it right, can even be done quite quickly. So yeah, I really don't have any complaints about this one. It's just fun to go through. 8. Badge Challenge Wall Climb 1. Despite being one of the earlier badge challenges, this is honestly one of the most fun. Trying to find the most efficient route through this is definitely quite enjoyable. The Wall Climb badge just makes for some great vertical levels. The best part though are definitely the purple coins. While the first one is just whatever, the other 2 are great. You have to wall climb on a tiny spinning block for the second one, and the third one is hidden really well off the screen at the end, so you're required to notice these coins on the wall and climb up it to discover the purple 10 coin. This is definitely a pretty easy challenge, but I also think it's one of the most fun at the same time. 7. Badge Challenge Spring Feet 2. This uses the Spring Feet's constant jumping to its full advantage by having not only several tricky jumps, but also quite a few enemies as well. The platforms you have to land on are much smaller than the ones from the first Spring Feet challenge, and I certainly think that was a good decision. This all comes to a head in the staircase at the end, which is made up of 1 block wide pillars. While it can be somewhat tricky to land on, managing to do it feels so good. The purple 10 coins here are also pretty solid, nothing too notable, but nothing that bad either. I think this was a fantastic evolution of the Spring Feet concept. Also, I can't be the only one who had the last section remind them of pogo stick levels and Happy Wheels, right? Are you guys old enough to know what Happy Wheels is? 6. Badge Challenge Invisibility 2. Despite being my least favorite badge in the game, Invisibility got some really good challenge levels. This plays into the badge's weaknesses very well, as it's genuinely quite challenging to keep track of yourself here. You have to parkour between several mushroom trampolines, all while not being able to see yourself. Luckily, the developers aren't pure evil, just mostly evil. I left a bunch of clouds to help us keep track of ourselves. They'll disappear when we touch them, but we can only do so once, so they act as pretty good markers for where we are. They're also used to hide the purple 10 coins, which I think is pretty smart. The first 2 are pretty tricky, but fun to reach. The last one, though, is definitely the highlight. In order to get it, you have to ride in a Lakitu cloud, but in order to do that, you first have to kill Lakitu. Luckily, he won't throw anything at us since he can't see us, but he'll still move around. We have to try and precisely jump off a mushroom platform and land on his head while he's moving. That's pretty challenging to do while we're invisible, but that's what makes getting this purple 10 coin and the top of the flag feel so good. Overall, this was just a fantastic challenge course. 5. Badge Challenge Dolphin Kick 1. For the first time in Mario history, an underwater level has made it to the top 5 of a positive list. The reason this place is so high comes down to the 3 purple 10 coins. The level starts with an incredibly unique approach to them, as you actually get to see all of them at the very start. However, once you start moving, they get dragged away by the stupid tuba flowers. Your goal is to now catch up with them so you can snag the coins. If you're too slow, they'll get locked behind a gate that you can't pass, so you have to try and optimize your swimming here perfectly. As I've said numerous times throughout this video, I love trying to do these fast, and that's basically the entire point of this challenge. Coming up with the best route and making the tightest turns possible around the moving blocks was seriously a ton of fun. I think it's a great introduction to the Dolphin Kick ability. The only reason it isn't higher is because, yeah, it is still a water level. The Dolphin Kick does actually make them fun now, but they'll just never be able to compete with Mario's land controls. Still, this was a phenomenal challenge level, and I kind of wish more of them took the approach of having us chase down the flowers for the purple 10 coins. 4. KO Arena Sunbaked Skirmish. After a bit of a streak of KO arenas with 3 rooms, we're back to one that has 4. This time though, I think all 4 rooms can be done satisfyingly quick. That is, as long as you go in using the Drill Mushroom, which may seem a bit surprising in a combat-based level, but its unique abilities actually work extremely well here. The first room has us take out a few mummies, bombsies. Normally these would require you to pull their wraps undone, but using the drill's point, you can actually shark them from below and ground pound on their heads to kill them. The next room features a ton of melon piranha plants. This is normally somewhat annoying since you have to kill them by throwing pots from Lakitu clouds, which is pretty slow, but with the drill, you could just jump into them and they die right away. This power-up honestly made this room one of my favorites to sweep. The next room has us taking out a bunch of snakes, which is pretty fun to try and route since the room is quite big. Finally, the last room is sadly a bit lame. It's just another Hammer Bros room, but this is probably even easier than the music note one we saw before. This literally lasts for like 5 seconds with very minimal effort. It feels like a bit of wasted space, but the rest of this was such a fun arena that I can't help but love it. I'm also really happy it gave me a chance to use the drill in combat, since I usually just relied on the Fire Flower for the rest of the game. 3. KO Arena Petal Metal. This is definitely my favorite KO arena, as all of the rooms are really fun to go through. Personally, I like using the elephant here since I find it the most effective. The first room has us taking out Cheap Chiefs, which is a breeze if you selected the Dolphin Kick badge before entering. The water also lowers as you go through this room, which I think is pretty neat. Look at this stupid fish, he's suffocating. The next room has us taking out several nipper plants. They're placed along bricks and turn blocks, so you have to find the optimal way to hit them and kill them faster. This is the main reason I think the elephant is best here, since the trunk can actually hit the blocks horizontally. You're also given a few POW blocks to help here as well, so using them optimally is also quite important. The final room has us faced with several Mamas, both above and below us. I just really like the layout here because jumping between the floors is a lot of fun. But that brings us to the end of this KO arena, and I have zero complaints. Every room was extremely fun, so I think this easily deserves the title of the best KO arena in the game. 2. Badge Challenge Invisibility 1. I think this does a phenomenal job of not only showcasing the invisibility badge, but also using it for a challenging level. Since this is the first time a player would be using the badge, the first section starts out quite nicely by letting us still see the shadow of our character. I think this was pretty important to ensure people were not confused by this. I mean, they could just read, but eventually though, we leave the walled off area and become completely invisible. This also shows us that bull rushes, and presumably other enemies as well, won't go out of their way to attack you in this state, seeing as it stays perfectly still. That then brings us to the level's first purple 10 coin, which is placed right above the bull rush. Jumping for it will naturally lead people to landing on the bull rush, which then introduces us to another mechanic that the bull rushes will still charge after being touched. So with that information in mind, we can continue on with the challenge. We then have a few more jumps over the void before reaching a 10 coin encased in bricks. Using the information about the bull rushes we learned from before, we can attract this nearby one to break the bricks and let us collect the coin. From there, the stage continues on with a few more jumps, though I also want to point out the inclusion of pots here. Since these can be carried, I think they were added in so that smart players can still use them to gauge where they are even if they are invisible. It certainly wasn't necessary, but I do like the inclusion. The last 10 coin has us using another bull rush, but this time we have to turn it around, adding a bit more to the coin. Finally, we reach the end, but if we want the top of the flag, we're gonna need a bit of a boost. There is a nearby bull rush, but its back is completely covered, so we can't just jump on it like we have been. Luckily, there are some nearby pots, and through some experimentation, we can find out that those two will get their attention. So by making sure to time our jump onto the moving bull rush, we're able to jump off of it and then reach the top of the flag. This was just a phenomenal showcase of the invisibility badge and what it can do for you. Everything was introduced naturally, and the puzzles here were really good, especially that last one for the top of the flag. I was honestly pleasantly surprised by this level in my playthrough. I think it's pretty much perfect. 1. Badge Challenge Wall Climb 2. Despite everything I said about Invisibility 1, I think Wall Climb Jump 2 is able to just barely squeeze by as my favorite badge challenge in Super Mario Bros. Wonder for one simple reason: it's more challenging. This greatly expands on what the first Wall Climb Jump stage introduced by having significantly smaller walls this time around. That not only makes general navigation harder, but it also makes several of the purple coins harder to nav. There are also just more walls here in general, allowing us to make up our own routes, which I think is pretty fun. There are 3 different sections of walls. The first one are the green ones, which are just stationary. The yellow walls are able to move side to side, making the jumps here a bit more tricky. The purple 10 coin here is also off the wall this time instead of on top, meaning you have to dip down to get it and risk falling to the bottom. The best part of the level though is definitely the red walls, which are much taller and also spinning. This makes them very hard to climb as you have to time your jumps perfectly to avoid slipping. That also brings us to the stage's final purple 10 coin, where you have to run across a red wall while it's spinning, which is pretty risky. After that though, the stage comes to an end, and I think it's definitely my favorite badge challenge. While probably not the hardest, I think it's got the best combination of challenge, good collectibles, and a fun design. So for all of those reasons, I think Badge Challenge Wall Climb 2 is my personal favorite bonus level in Super Mario Bros. Wonder. But anyways, that's it for this video. Do you somehow find the impossible level Hurry Hurry to be easy and hate me for ranking it low? Let me know in the comments. I'm honestly really happy I decided to add on the 32 other bonus levels on top of the badge challenges for this video. I know a lot of them ended up being in the first half of this list, but I think it made the video more enjoyable overall. Hopefully you all had a fun time with this one as well. But anyways, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.